Hey, it's Brian with the Unstuck sessions. On today's episode, this is kind of an impromptu live stream. I was planning on just doing this as a video, but I'm really more comfortable in a live stream format. But what I'm going to talk about is the workflow I have for one of my clients and how I'm using LinkedIn newsletters to help create opportunities for one of my clients that's not necessarily tied to having a massive audience and doing all the other stuff that normally you get monetized for. That's what I have on today's episode. What's up? My name is Brian. I have a marketing agency that I'm pivoting into more of a DIY marketing agency, which means I provide tools and resources for so that businesses can learn how to do their own marketing. Or if you're running a personal brand, you can do your own marketing. I'm going to jump into this. There's a ton of people out here who are on the content wheel. That means you've heard the key to growing your business or personal brand is creating content. That's true. You can open up doors by doing that. I've done a live stream about letting content be an extension of your resume. I believe that. But there has to be some kind of system behind it. There has to be some kind of strategy. Otherwise, you're just going to be creating content for the love of the game. And that's not a bad thing if you're trying to get used to the concept of talking directly to camera. That's fine. But once you start getting into the meat of things, you're going to want to start seeing some returns for your time investment. So that's where this episode comes in. There's two aspects I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to show you my workflow for how I repurpose content for one of my clients and how we're using LinkedIn newsletters to create opportunities and secure future bags for that client. Stay tuned if that's the kind of stuff you want to hear. This is about giving you opportunity to put money in your pocket. And I think a lot of times when we utilize social media, we utilize it for diversion and all this other stuff. There are opportunities out here to utilize social media to benefit you and your business and career. What I'm trying to do is teach y'all how to use this as something in your toolbox so that you can grow. Okay. So we're going to jump into it. I'm pulling back the curtain on this thing because I feel like it's important for you to understand what I do. And it's a service I offer through my marketing agency. We've found a lot of benefit in it. So I want to open it up to other people if they're interested. So I'm pulling back the curtain on how we're growing the Level Up podcast. It's called the Level Up Podcast, the Career Playbook. It's hosted by my friend Brian Bell. He interviews C-suite level movers and shakers in Silicon Valley to share how you manage your career in Silicon Valley from a C-suite perspective, from an HR perspective. There's a ton of good insights in there. People consume media different ways. I have longs and shorts, the full podcast and shorter content to drive traffic. YouTube is prioritizing shorts. On Instagram and Facebook, they're using Reels. TikTok, you have your TikTok videos. And then YouTube is really prioritizing short form content. Even LinkedIn is leaning into short form content. We utilize that to give people snippets of the podcast and then lead them back into listening to the whole thing. Once we started this, there's a little story behind it because Brian asked me to help produce elements of the podcast. I said, okay, let's do it. The services started taking shape and I started seeing opportunities to grow this thing. We started seeing new opportunities popping up for us to grow this thing. And always really super excited to see new ways to apply things. We saw an opportunity to grow on LinkedIn and utilize LinkedIn as a service. I wanted to really maximize what we're doing with LinkedIn. And we saw opportunity there where I could utilize the clips from that podcast and drive the audience, but at the same time, create opportunities for Brian to advance his career. It turned into a matter of, okay, so how do we get the most bang for our buck with this one? I'm big about creating it once and utilizing it forever. That's how I operate. I think there's tremendous value in that, and it's conducive for business owners. If you're not a full-time content creator, it can be really difficult to fit this into your schedule. My big thing is let's invest the time up front, create it once, and then repurpose it for as long as we can. Our secret growth weapon was I wanted to try out newsletters on LinkedIn. I'll tell you how I build those things. When we post a new episode, I get a transcript. I take the transcript and repurpose it into a newsletter. In that newsletter, it has all the key bullet points and tips from the guests. That's been the most successful part of the podcast. We build a huge audience on LinkedIn through that newsletter. Every time the newsletter drops, the analytics on LinkedIn spike because we can also see who's reading this newsletter. Most of the people that read this newsletter are C-suite. If you don't know what C-suite is, that is CEO, CFO, COO, the leadership part of these major corporations. They are primarily the ones reading this. And then it kind of trickles down. Based on doing the newsletter, when I talked to Brian, because we're trying to go through the regular monetization route of building out the audience, getting 1,000 watch hours on YouTube and all that other stuff. But he's been seeing more people reaching out with job offers, freelance offers, people wanting him to mentor them, and this abundance of opportunities that come from putting the podcast on LinkedIn and having the newsletter to augment that. I want to show y'all what my back end looks like and how we normally do this. First things first, let's talk about the importance of repurposing. Most creators waste their content. They create it once, and then once it's posted, it's a big sprint to get away from it, it seems like, and they want to move on to the next piece. I understand that. I'm not big on editing videos or looking at myself. It can be really uncomfortable, but it's a necessary part of the game. But a lot of times, business owners and stuff, they're already uncomfortable in front of the camera, and they don't necessarily want to go back and rewatch their footage. That's why a lot of times people record stuff. They have a whole bunch of videos recorded that they never posted because they haven't edited them yet. For them, it's a struggle to get it posted. And once it posts, it dies. It's a losing game because you're stuck on a hamster wheel. Basically, you've decided to be a content creator without actually being a content creator. Realistically, setting yourself up to constantly feed the monster with fresh content every single time and come up with new ideas and go through that whole process that you're uncomfortable with over and over again. I'm offering a different way. My advice is you pick a certain day where you're recording and you just batch all of your content and find ways to redistribute it. I'll tell you what I normally use. There's a couple of different tools. There's one that makes it really easy, but you lose a little bit of flexibility. Repurposing is leverage. You can multiply one piece of work into multiple platforms for different audiences. Each platform has a different audience. And by creating or repurposing content, you test what platforms you get a bigger response on. We have whittled down platforms and said, okay, we get a great response over here, but the response over here ain't so great. And we've kind of whittled it down. Right now, our core platforms are Facebook, because we're already monetized on Facebook for that podcast. Facebook, TikTok, we're kind of testing it. We're seeing where the audience goes with it. YouTube is our hub because it exposes us to the largest audience possible. And the one that's really been responsive is LinkedIn. We multiply that piece of work and use multiple platforms and touch multiple audiences. And some audiences are going to respond to some videos better than others. Specifically LinkedIn, I said that was a really responsive platform. What we did on LinkedIn was I saw that there's the newsletter function. The newsletter turns passive followers into really engaged readers, and they get pushed directly to your subscribers. So whenever we drop a new episode of the podcast, we drop a newsletter. The newsletter announces the new episode of the podcast. It gives a more detailed breakdown than you can put into a LinkedIn post. We normally tag the person that we've interviewed, tag whatever ventures they want us to tag in it, and away we go. And it helps us build an audience. If we were just posting the podcast, it would have been harder to grow because once the video passes, it's gone. But the newsletter has stickiness because it has career insights and tips for people dealing with the day-to-day of Silicon Valley. When I say stickiness, they come back to it. When I first started, I was a big proponent of having an email newsletter and a printed newsletter. The printed newsletter include puzzles, recipes, the whole nine, so it has stickiness, so people keep coming back to it. And that's what the online version of the LinkedIn newsletter does for us. It's not just about views. And our YouTube numbers are small. Our LinkedIn numbers are modest. Facebook audience is pretty good, but our YouTube numbers are small. We don't really care. That audience is growing slowly, and people are getting more responsive with each episode. There are other ways to monetize video content besides AdSense. And that's what a lot of people do. They use ad revenue. They see the big time YouTubers doing that. Their audiences are so massive. A lot of times those massive audiences are drawn in by the lowest common denominator. That's why Mr. Beast has this big audience, because A lot of the content is really level and it's entertainment content, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. But when you're growing your audience as a professional, you have to balance out, like, do you really want to be where you are constantly having to entertain your audience in order to inform them? Do you want an audience in line with being informed, tuning in to learn from you? We were like, all right, we're informing this audience. We're not about entertainment because we don't want the entertainment, because the entertainment audience, they drift. And if they're not entertained, they're off of you real quick. The audience that's looking to pick up something and learn, they have more intent. They want to stick around and learn. The opportunities come from LinkedIn. It's brought us C-suite readers, decision makers, and these are the people that open doors. These are the people that, hey, this guy looks like he might be a good fit. Let's have our recruiter give them a shout. That's kind of where we're at right now. It's really fun because we are in a season of too many opportunities, and directions we can go with the career playbook. We have meetings to discuss, hey, these are all the options we came up with this week. What business model do you want to build out of this? It didn't come, it's not magic. It wasn't an accident. It came from us strategically posting content consistently and then adding that newsletter piece to give it that extra punch. Okay. So the idea is we're already doing the work. Repurposing the podcast plus creating newsletters, make sure that work pays off. Do y'all want to hear? Because I'm moving on to this next part. The next piece is I'll tell you the workflow of how we do this. Here's how it starts. Normally, I may be at home and Brian, the host, will hit me up and say, dropped a new episode. It's private on YouTube. Do your thing. The first thing I do is take that video, and the tool I use is my main video editor, but it also has other uses. It's called Descript. The link's in the show notes. It's a full-featured video editor. It's not as powerful as Adobe or DaVinci Resolve, but it brings ease of use. Editing the video is as simple as editing the transcript. Premiere Pro has that feature now, but it's not as good as the way it does it, because you can extract the video, the audio, you can extract the transcript. That's onboard AI to edit out ums and ahs and your filler words. You can tell it to edit for clarity so that it can cut off all the extemporaneous commentary. It has a lot of other features and they're constantly adding stuff to it. It's worth the money I pay for it. And it saves me time. I take that video, once he records it and posts it on YouTube, I take that video and drop it into, normally we'll identify the speakers, it'll ask you how many speakers there are so it can label the speakers. And it also helps with some of the AI stuff on the back end, like when it's creating your show notes, timestamps, and all the other stuff. I drop the video in there and I extract the transcript. And it'll give me a Word doc file. I go through the transcript. And as I'm going through the transcript, I'm actually typing my notes on that transcript or whatnot and saying, hey, this is a good insight here, and really punching it up. I treat it like something I can punch up. Okay. Once I have the transcript reviewed and I'm looking at it and I'm getting ready to rock and roll, I'm ready to take it to the next step, I go back to the video because I want to do this all while I'm in the same program. I open up the script and I use the script to edit the video. If it's longer than an hour, I use the script to whittle that video down to about 59 minutes and 59 seconds. The reason for that is I could take it to TikTok and post a video in its entirety. And so I have the benefit of posting the entire video without having to take the TikTok audience off platform to go view the video on YouTube. It's important for our flow. I'm able to post the video on TikTok in its entirety. LinkedIn only gives us a 10-minute cap at this point. I don't know if it's a feature you got to unlock, but right now, videos can't be longer than 10 minutes on LinkedIn. They might change things. This is not going to be forever, but that's how it is right now. The video ready for TikTok, so I'm ready for distribution when I'm ready to do that. Make all my notes on the transcript. Put my key takeaways, strong quotes, main themes, career growth strategies, pulling all the signal out of the noise. I used to use ChatGPT, but Manus is a lot more thorough and it's good. It's better at kind of interpreting my notes and helps me really format it and gives me an outline that I can use to rewrite this newsletter and start giving me some drafts of the newsletter. I don't use Chat. You can use their free tier. I do use Manus because Manus does a little bit more. That's just my personal opinion. And I think it writes better than ChatGPT. When it writes, I can edit and make them my own. And a lot of times when I have so much in those transcripts, it's basically just rewording my words and reorganizing them into a coherent newsletter. Once I get all that stuff set up, it's never copy and pasted. It's never just I drop it in Manus and it spits it out. I've done a lot of work on the back end of my Manus account, giving it samples of my writing so it can recognize my writing and mimic it. But then I'm still editing and editing once I get it done because the newsletter is high quality. I don't want it to be AI slop. Once I have the newsletter formatted the way I want, it's the heart of the system. It's not just a recap. It pulls the best information out and turns it into something that people want to read. So even if they don't listen to the episode, they can read the newsletter and have a good idea of what was said. When you post a newsletter on LinkedIn, I'm getting ready to actually release this podcast. And the podcast is YouTube based, so it's mostly video. I'm ready to release and distribute this podcast first. I create a new edition of the newsletter. And after I send it over to Brian to take a look at it, I put my finalized newsletter on LinkedIn. Whenever I tag our guests and tag whatever business they're tied to, I leverage their audience as well. Newsletter's up, everybody's tagged, ready to go. When you click the button to go to next, it's going to ask you for a LinkedIn post. Now, the LinkedIn post, I've already halfway written through my notes. That one, I use Manus for that as well. I draft that LinkedIn post as the announcement of the new podcast. In that announcement, I put the direct link for the podcast. I also do that in the newsletter as well, so I'm covering all my bases. You can't post a LinkedIn article without some kind of LinkedIn post to accompany it. And so I made that post the announcement of the new episode of the show. And when they click on that link, they automatically get taken to the newsletter so they can see it. And then from there, they can click on the link and go to the show. The LinkedIn post has key aspects: a hook, a couple of things that we talked about in the podcast, and then a call to action. Click or watch more. I always tag the guests in their business to expand the reach. I schedule the newsletter and LinkedIn post early morning, Silicon Valley time. So I try to have it go live between 30 and 9 a.m. I set the YouTube video to be public 15 minutes before that LinkedIn newsletter, LinkedIn post live, just so that video's up and running and already, so they don't run into any kind of weird shenanigans where the video's not ready and they get an error message, because I don't do that. Facebook and TikTok, I schedule those around the same time as well. Once it's live, we monitor LinkedIn, see who's responding. Brian's good about responding to people. Once it's live, we monitor LinkedIn because that's really our hub and that's where a lot of the action comes from. He comments and replies to people. The guests normally will say a few words and we'll thank the guest. That's the machine. We duplicate the video process. I post a version of the video directly on Facebook, where Facebook has its own version of the podcast in its entirety. TikTok has a full version of the podcast in its entirety. And then YouTube has a full version. Okay. So those are the three platforms. You can pick one platform and run with it. That's how it gets launched. When it comes to repurposing, we make shorter form clips out of the larger podcast and redistribute them to all platforms. I can do it manually if I want a little bit more oomph to it, but there's a tool I can use that speeds up the process. I suggest that you use the tool I used. It's worth the money. Here's the cool part. We're not just getting random views. We're bringing in an audience of high intention decision makers. What does that mean? That means people looking to make some kind of decision. These are people that make decisions in their company and have the ability to ask for more. The newsletter cultivated an audience for services. Brian gets mentorship requests, freelance opportunities, job offers, partnerships, new guests. Right now, we're in a season of we have so many different possible avenues that we can take. We're having a business model that we're going to utilize is because all of them can be successful. We just got to pick the one that makes sense for us. That is a very, very good place to be. It's scary, but it's also a good place to be. We have an abundance of opportunities. We have to pick the right vehicle now. And all of them will drive. All of them have mileage. All of them can go. It's just figuring out what one we want to deploy based on the LinkedIn newsletter and the LinkedIn post and us constantly posting clips of the podcast to LinkedIn. That's where a lot of these opportunities are coming from. When we first started, he wanted to grow. on YouTube, but we're adjusting because the return from our LinkedIn audience is really impressive. If you're interested, hit me up at mail@isellwords.net. What we do with that newsletter is it's an extension of Brian's resume. It augments it. When somebody goes to his LinkedIn profile, they're going to see all the clips from the podcast and the newsletter articles so they can be introduced to the way he thinks, perceives things, and the way that he handles things. And they can reach out to him from that. It creates opportunities that weren't there before. People are looking for the solution to be delivered to them, not the pathway to the solution. They're looking for the destination and the goal, but not the opportunity vehicle. The opportunity vehicle is more important because when you have a vehicle for an opportunity, you could take that opportunity any direction you want to. When you're just presented the prize at the end of the rainbow, you can take it or leave it. This thing is creating new opportunities. It's an opportunity generating machine. We're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall. We're choosing which opportunities pursue. We get a chance to pick and choose what vehicle. So we're meeting here over the next couple of weeks to figure out what business model we're going to put underneath this. Now, if you're wondering how I do all this, I have toolkits instead of done for you marketing services. I'm taking the tools I use to write social media posts, newsletters, blog posts, all that other stuff. I templated them out, the templates I use to write everything. You're going to find the link in the show notes. Right now, we're on Gumroad. I'm probably going to be migrating things over to my site as well. These are tools that I've had a lot of success with. I'm constantly adding new industries on there, but I do have one that's generic for pretty much any industry, and it's kind of a plug and play thing. Plus, I have a guide that teaches you some of the basics of direct response marketing. If you're interested, it's in the show notes below. To recap, I strongly believe in scheduling a day and batching all your content, recording all of your stuff. If you're trying to build a personal brand, if you're trying to market your business, if you're just trying to do a passion project and get your voice out on social media and you want to have your own channel, I suggest that instead of I'm going to record 4 days a week and all this other stuff, I would rather you take a couple of hours and dedicate those hours to creating and recording stuff, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's writing, and then batch it out throughout the week. Some people take an entire day to record, and that's what they distribute for the entire month. It's really how you want to do it. What I would not suggest is trying to do this or recording every single day. That will grind on you fast. Most people are not built for it. I know one person that was able to successfully do that. He's had a lot of success. He has a whole entire library of stuff that he can go back and repurpose. So it worked out for him. But if you're just starting out and you already have the anxiety about how you're going to show up on camera and how things are going to look, I would just pick a time and work from there. The way Brian's schedule is, he picks one day a week, and that's the recording day. We normally post the full podcast, and we'll take snippets of the podcast and utilize it to drive traffic to the podcast. And we sprinkle those all over social media. I use Opus Pro when I don't have time to clip the podcast myself. Opus Pro is a great tool. I can drop a link from StreamYard, the platform I'm currently using. I can drop it from a link from YouTube and pretty much any video platform that's out there. And Opus Pro does the rest. You can customize templates and your brand colors. It will clip the video and make it a vertical video or a traditional 16:9 video like you're seeing right now. Post it to any social media platform. If I take this video and drop it into Opus Pro, I could tell it how long I want the videos, say under 3 minutes, so it can be a short on YouTube. It will give me about 10 to 12 short form clips. It will transcribe them, put the bouncing text on the bottom so people can read it. It takes the best clips. I have 10 to 12 clips from one piece of content. It's a really fast moving tool. I can get pretty good quality clips, but this is a time saver if you're just starting out. It's one less thing you got to do. I put my affiliate link for Opus Pro in the show notes as well. There's also an affiliate link for Descript, the video editor I use. So I'm trying to give you access to these tools. They ain't free, but I'm a big believer in you pay money to save time. And these things save a lot of time. Opus Pro, when I first started out, was saving me a good 16 hours of additional video editing a week. You can post directly from the platform. So if I want to post stuff on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, I can go to the video clip that is clipped for me on Opus Pro and say, schedule this to post on this platform. And it will give you a title that you can adjust, a description that you can adjust, and some hashtags. You can repost them all without leaving Opus Pro's dashboard. Really cool tool. If you're looking at repurposing clips, it's worth the investment. It's about $19 a month for their starter pack. I forgot how many minutes of footage you get to clip, but it's a pretty good amount, especially for people just starting out. If you're interested, I got that in the show notes. I utilize the short form content to drive eyeballs to the longer form stuff and capture the best parts and best segments of the podcast so it can kind of whet people's appetite for it. Brian hits me up, tells me that the video's ready, drop it into the script, I extract the transcript. I also trim it down to under an hour so I can repost that video in its entirety on TikTok. I take the transcript, make my notes on it, take it to Manus. Manus is an AI agent, and I help it rewrite and reformat my words into a newsletter that I can post on LinkedIn. Once I get the LinkedIn stuff ready to rock and roll, hold on one second, y'all. My newsletter always has a post on LinkedIn. I create the post, schedule the video to be ready 15 minutes before the post goes live. And that's what I do. I utilize that content to create multiple pieces and create opportunities. Like I said, I use that newsletter to build opportunities for my clients. The LinkedIn newsletter is getting traction. It's offers for partnerships, job offers, freelance offers, people wanting to pay for coaching. That newsletter does a lot without us having to constantly put out new posts and other stuff. That newsletter has legs. People come back because it has value. The value is we interview leaders and thought leaders in and around Silicon Valley in tech. The audience wants to see how thought leaders perceive things to advance their careers. Also, we have a lot of C-suite readers. A lot of the C-suite people want to see what other people in their industry are doing or thinking or how they're navigating issues. That newsletter gives a breakdown of everything we talk about on those podcasts. What we're going to do is I repurpose content all the time for my clients. You record it once and you could use it for a week. You could use it for a month, depending on how you clip it. I use Opus Pro to take my longer form video content and cut it into bite-sized segments that I can use to promote everything. If I have more time, I like to create the clips manually, but Opus Pro saves time. The video editor I use is the script. It can extract transcripts, it can extract audio, can extract video, it can do so much. As a versatile tool made for people that do podcasts, video podcasts, live streams, and all the other stuff. It's a tool specifically made for them to make it move faster. The video editing is simple as editing the transcript of whatever you put into it. Most creators waste content. Repurposing gives leverage, reach, and multiple opportunities. LinkedIn newsletters turn followers into engaged readers, and it also reaches decision makers. Okay. My process is get the episode uploaded, receive the uploaded episode, use the script to pull the transcript, trim the episode if it's over an hour so I can post it in its entirety on TikTok, review the transcript, pull out key points, quotes, and strategies. I use Manus to help me rewrite all that stuff into a coherent newsletter and LinkedIn post. On LinkedIn, I'll post to go along with it. The newsletter is the core asset. I spend a lot of time on that one. So it's not just a recap. It's actually giving them a breakdown and giving them the insight so that they can read that entire thing and have a full understanding of the podcast. I draft the LinkedIn post using the newsletter. I always tag the guest and their business in the LinkedIn post. I schedule everything. I make sure the YouTube video goes live 15 minutes before LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. I always make sure the YouTube video is live first, so they're not getting an error message when they click on the link in the newsletter. Then we engage in LinkedIn comments. The result is level audience with decision makers, C-suite executives. As a result, the host, Brian, gets offers for freelance work and jobs. Right now, we're really in a season of figuring out what opportunity we want to pursue. It's not looking for the opportunity, it's picking which one because there's so many different ones. I also mentioned that if you're interested, I have made a lot of my templates and tools available. I'm always adding stuff. Links in the show notes. It's the Unstuck Marketing Department. Right now it's on Gumroad. I'm probably going to be moving it over to my website shortly. But it's templates, frameworks, and systems that I use are in the show notes. So if you want me to do this for your podcast or live stream, hit me up. This is what I do. My email is mail@isellwords.net. If you want to learn how to play the LinkedIn game, I'm always down for a consult and teach you how to maximize LinkedIn to master your career opportunities and get a little bit more money. To wrap this up, the system isn't just about growing audience size. It's creating real career opportunities and real business opportunities. If you're interested or liked what I talked about, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. I want to make this an asset for people, not just another talking head online. I'm going to put the overlay up. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know you're out there. I've had a couple of things change in my schedule, so I have a little bit more time to do this stuff, but I really want y'all to benefit. I appreciate y'all's time. Be on the lookout for future videos. I'm going to be taking this live stream and chopping it up into something I can post on YouTube so you can catch an abridged version of it there. Go ahead and hit me up if you want to talk. I will talk to y'all later. Thanks for sticking with me through the technical difficulties. I'm Brian with Unstuck Sessions. Hit me up and get unstuck with me. Talk to y'all later. Peace.